Hello Year 4s and welcome to your next SPAG lesson. In the previous few lessons we have been looking at things to do with our writing. So we've been looking at demarcating sentences. We've also looked at creating paragraphs and having a topic sentence with subsequent sentences underneath that link back to our topic sentences and making sure that our writing is organized into ideas. So today we're going to be carrying on with our SPAG and looking at something that will help with our non-chronological reports. And in today's lesson, we are looking at the following. So we will be looking at exciting sentence openers. And this is obviously different ways that we can start our sentences. And this is really important when we're writing our paragraphs, specifically thinking about the topic sentences and how we're going to start them and not just starting them in a boring way. So our learning objective is the following. We are learning how to start sentences in a variety of interesting ways, and we're going to be looking at the tusk fish when we look at this. So the tusk fish is that little fish that you can see in the corner there. So the colorful orange dotted tusk fish, also known as the anchorfish, can be found in the warm waters of the Indian Ocean near Sri Lanka. Living in the reefs there, it can grow up to 50 centimeters long. And so I actually used my rulers earlier to try and have a look at how long this was. And I want you to imagine if this is 30 centimeters, okay, and we're going to add another 20 centimeters to that, okay, you can see that that's actually quite a long fish, isn't it? That's about 50 centimeters. So there are many different types of tusk fish, several of which have brightly colored markings, such as the harlequin tusk fish. In this fascinating clip, an amazing snaggle-toothed orange dotted tusk fish, it's a big mouthful, can be seen throwing a clam against some hard coral. He does this in an attempt to crack it open so that he can feast on its fleshy contents. Dropping the clam repeatedly whilst trying to open it, the tusk fish shows determination and perseverance by not giving up. Do you think he's going to succeed? Let's watch the clip and find out. So the link to the video is in the description below. So give it a click. So pause this video, give that one a click, and you can watch and learn a bit more about the tusk fish. Okay. So something you can do as a starter activity, a word challenge for you. Can you make a list of words or phrases that describe someone or something who doesn't give up easily, right? And think about also, our words that we're looking at for being a leader, someone who doesn't give up. So we've got some examples there. We've got perseverance, determination. So what other words or phrases can you use that can describe someone or something that doesn't give up? Let's move on to our grammar bit. Right, so read the 4 sentences opposite, and you'll notice that they each start in a really interesting way, and that's been highlighted in bold. The first sentence starts with with an ly ending adverb. The second sentence starts with an ing ending verb. The third sentence starts with an ed ending verb. Okay, so I will read through them with you. The fourth sentence starts with a simile. Don't forget that a simile is a descriptive tool that uses the words as or like to compare one thing to something else. So let's read the 4 scintillating sentences before we read the next bit about from our grammar bit. Speedily, the tusk fish swims to its underwater kitchen to open the clam. Throwing the clam against the coral, the tusk fish tries to get to its food. Smashed against the coral, the clamshell eventually breaks apart. Like a hammer, the tusk fish hits the clam repeatedly against the coral. So I want you to take a moment and see if you can replace the words speedily, throwing, and smashed with suitable alternatives. So other words that you could use that mean something similar for the first 3 sentences, And then see if you can replace the simile. The simile there is like a hammer. And can you replace it with something of your own? So pause the video now and see if you can start those 4 sentences with different words. Right. Remember, when we're looking at similes, and this might be a bit confusing, and that sometimes we get a bit confused with this, is we're comparing one thing to another. So as quick as a flash. So as quick as a flash, the tusk fish swam to the underwater kitchen. Okay. Like a hammer. So think about a hammer hitting down like this. It says like a hammer, comma, the tusk fish hits the clam repeatedly against the coral. So it's doing this. You could say something similar to like a wave against the beach, because that keeps hitting the beach, doesn't it? The tusk fish hits the clam repeatedly against the coral. Your descriptive tool of comparing, the comparison needs to be something that you can almost picture in your mind. So it can't just be a random, like a butterfly in the ocean or a butterfly beating its wings. So think carefully about what it looks like for it to be hitting the clam against the coral. What else makes this kind of motion? So it could be like a stamp hitting a piece of paper, or it could be like a bell ringing. Okay, it's hitting again and again. So think about a comparison where something is happening repeatedly, and it can be similar to the tusk fish hitting the clam against the coral. A little extra fact there about the tusk fish. Did you know the stunning harlequin tusk fish usually has 8 pairs of alternating orange, blue, and white bands on its body and prominent, sharp blue teeth? Let's move on to our whiteboard challenge today. Challenge 1. Starting with a verb that ends with ing. So think carefully about a verb. Remember, a verb is a doing word that ends with ing, or an adverb that ends with ly. Copy and complete the first sentence. So the first sentence is missing something. You need to have either a verb ending in ing or an adverb ending with ly. So it says something. The tusk fish grabs the clam out of its hiding place. Then the next one says, copy and complete the second sentence that starts with the simile as stubborn as a mule. And now a mule is a type of donkey, and they are often known as quite stubborn animals that if you're trying to get them to walk somewhere, they don't want to do what you're asking them to do. So as stubborn as a mule, the tusk fish. And can you finish that sentence for me? So what is the tusk fish quite stubborn about? So give that a think. And your third challenge says, use some of the descriptive words from the word wall and write your own scintillating sentence about the tusk fish that's featured in the film. Your sentence must either start with an ing or ed ending verb, an ly ending adverb, or a simile. So think back to how each one of these sentences started. Can you create your own sentence that starts with something similar? So either an adverb that ends with ly, a simile, or a verb that ends with ing or ed. If you've got a bit of extra time, maybe you want to try and create 4 of your own sentences that about the tusk fish that end with each one of those. Look at your word wall and use the vocabulary that's there. So we've got tusk fish, clam, resilient, snaggletooth, coral, fleshy, determined, clasped, shattered, repeatedly, and smashed. Don't forget to share this with us on Tapestry. Please make sure that your work is laid out neatly and that it is on Tapestry by 4 o'clock this afternoon.